Artyom and Leonie, thank you for being here. I did a short introduction about who you are, and we're really looking forward to seeing your work. So thank you for joining us, and hope to see you in person as well at the university soon. But until then, we're looking forward to hear about your project.
Thank you for giving a chance and inviting us to speak about our projects and share about our thoughts about architecture. My name is Artyom Kitaev. Next to me on the screen, you can see Leonid Slanimsky. We are founders of KOSMOS Architects, and KOSMOS Architects is an international collective which brings people together from different countries to work on projects of different type and scale, and but not also to do, let's say, what we imagine how it should be done. Probably one of our main focus, or let's say what intrigues us the most in work, is to do something what we have no clue about, to experiment and discover new values and new approaches in architecture. And today we would like to share with you some of the projects, and I would like to introduce you one of the concepts which we called architect, from chief builder to chief curator. So architect, chief, tact, builder. This term, this meaning, this word quite well defined actually the meaning of occupation of architect, to coordinate the construction, to run the construction, to lead the construction. And in our understanding, probably this term doesn't anymore comply with the current challenges and which posed, for example, with by environmental conditions. And we'd like to discuss what could be alternative to this linear organization of the construction. And the transition of linear organization of the construction to circular economy means not only reuse of the materials, but also understanding that any use is a continuous process. And we'd like to propose the role of the architect as a curator who could understand how we could curate spaces. And in this diagram, you can see the empty box indicating the space in the middle, which could be occupied and used differently for different purposes. That's one of the role of the architect, to see actually how you could use, redefine the use, introduce new use in the existing spaces. But as well, we have to every time speak about the meaning of the materials and technologies. So to see how the materials the building is assembled from could be used for different types of could be applied in different spheres of application. Leonid, probably let's go to the next slide. What I mean by that, architecture, it's not only space or not only materials, but also technologies, and all of this together defines the cycle of the construction. So the purpose of the role of the architect in the conditions of great scarcity of resources is to find how, in the most efficient way, use available building, available space, available structure, but also available material, and with minimal means, in the most efficient way, to find a strategy to satisfy currently required needs, new demands, but also to keep this use open, to keep this configuration open for the new construction and new use. Let's go to the next slide. In this case, we manifest that the meaning of the architect is not anymore to build, but to curate spaces, to curate materials, and curate technologies. And I would like to continue this line of thoughts with the project Permanent Temporary. It's a temporary pavilion in Barcelona, which we have built together with Parabasi. It is a practice which works between Switzerland and Spain. And with this project, we try to pose a question: what is actually future of architecture when urban resources are extracted? How we can see city as an urban mine, as the city itself, not as a not as a place which constantly should grow, but how we could find resources within the existing cities. And indeed, most of the living cities, they undergoing continuous transformation, adaptation, adjustment. Construction site is a normal state of any city, but within this construction process, there are many materials which are get which get excluded from the construction cycle. And to us, is interesting to show how much we can find just laying around the city. And if we look closer, we indeed can see materials laying. Leonid, let's continue. If we look closer, let's continue further. We can see materials laying in next. We can see materials laying in between the buildings. Probably because we have in this project quite some slides. Let's just continue with a.
I will just click then until you say stop, okay?
Yes, so what was important with the slideshow to illustrate how many materials you can find in the city, diversity of them, which are stored, which are thrown away or stored, sometimes accurately and organized, sometimes disorganized. They could be found in the most unexpected places. But what is interesting as well, it's that these materials, the storage of the materials, these urban resources, they consist not only of of leftovers of the construction, but one can find there beautiful monuments and even such an elements like, for example, doors from Sagrada Familia. Sometimes these materials could be found in beautiful spaces or left at abandoned suburban spaces. It could be elements from famous architecture. Like, for example, these elements from Enrique Miralles Stadium near Barcelona. But when we speak about reuse, it's not about using everything what you have. It's about careful selection of particular materials and assembly of what you have, not in a patchwork or weird combination, but it's an alignment, it's a choice of materials which allows us to create architecture in a way very similar to any new construction. It's not a big diversity, it's not a big difference in new construction and reuse projects. In any architectural project, in any approach, it is how to find materials, technologies, available resources to provide the functionality which is required. And in this project,
sorry, I just wanted, if you will continue now, I just wanted to add, because I think it was not clear from your description, that thanks to this project, we were allowed to visit multiple sites of Barcelona storage of the materials. So these images which Artyom was showing are not just random places, but they were the city of Barcelona opened the doors to us in order to get access to them. Please continue, Artyom.
Yes, exactly. With this project, was important to show how much is simply stored. And of course, some materials like asphalt could be found on the street, but even without, let's say, materials, there's plenty of materials simply excluded from the construction cycle. And to us was interesting to show the potential how these materials could be included, and to show how the selected materials could be again reintegrated in the cycle of the construction. And when we speak about temporary architecture, often what appears in front of our eyes, it's a lightweight material, metal or wood, and to us was interesting to oppose this conventional expectation of temporary architecture and try to show how heavy loaded mineral materials could be also used for the temporary structures, and sometimes could even have more sense. So we have selected only mineral materials which were assembled in the way that it could be easily disassembled, place them in the composition to form a public space, and to unite them in one architectural object. We have covered them with a debris netting to organize a space in between them. Let's go to the next. And that's how that's how the pavilion appeared at the entrance to the park, with a view, if you fly with a drone, to Sagrada Familia. This configuration allowed to create, on one hand, elaborated silhouette of the pavilion while bringing together almost uncombinable materials. Next.
You can tell me if I should go next to many slides or.
Yes, I will. I will then go with the next. yeah, let's go. Let's
I
go
will
back.
just then
Sorry for
until you sorry guys, because it's not easy from two different computers. So until you tell me, I will continue clicking through until
I will probably just continue. So in this pavilion, to us was very important to show how you could assemble pavilion. You can assemble building without fixing it with a permanent fixations. How to elaborate the temporal appearance of Leonid. Probably stop. Sorry, just it's a bit too fast.
Sorry.
So in this pavilion, what was important to us to discuss the limits of architecture, how much architecture could be, where architecture starts and where architecture finishes, and how much temporary storage of the materials could manifest its own appearance, could create its own design, and also how the technology of assembly, like in this case, just a stacking of the material, could also provide elaborated design expression of the pavilion. And we can see how different elements could be combined together, and absence and the method of the assembly could create architectural design. Next. What was important to us is to build this pavilion in such a way that it would be easy to disassemble. So we decide to use the physical qualities of the material. And for example, the debris netting, if you just roll it, by rolling the material receives different strength. And then you can see that we even don't need to use a strap, that just a rolled material make the soft net very rigid, and by loading this net with the heavy stones or spheres, we could avoid also fixation to the ground. So again, in this pavilion, we try to experiment how to build architecture in such a way, how to create architecture in such a way to make it usable, to make it available for disassembly, and then to reintegrate these materials again into the cycle of construction. And to us was also interesting to experiment which materials could be again introduced in the civic construction, even though they were never meant to be used in this purpose for this purpose. So, for example, this asphalt stool was an attempt to see what could be the application of the asphalt, of this road material, which normally would be excluded from the construction cycle. Here you could see again details of the material, how you could just stretch the net around the pavilions, around the elements, but also what was important to us to ask is the meaning of different elements. Is it only the obviously, construction materials could be part of the construction material, or sometimes we could define different qualities of the object. And here, for example, the meaning of the statue, of this monument, which we try to use almost like a spolia, like a found antique element, which was applied in a medieval construction, in antique and medieval construction, where the aesthetical, let's say, cultural or historical qualities have been disregarded, and ultimately practical meaning, let's say material value of the object were rediscovered. And here we use, for example, this monument as a column, try to understand if all the statues stored somewhere in the dark storages probably should also appear in the city, but already in the new in urban spaces, but in a new role. To us was also interesting to experiment with the soft and hard materials of the building, and to see how the real materials, the stone materials, could be combined with fake materials and artificial materials, and also to create the space not as a space for the Leonid.
I go back to some slide. Okay.
Sorry, it's a bit messy presentation now. So to us, it was interesting not just to build a pavilion, but organize a space, a public space, which could attract people over the day and night, and also to make it, to create as a space for the discussions and the different workshops, where we would question the meaning of these materials. And next. So here you could see one of the workshops, like a furniture workshops, which was conducted, and a series of the discussions about the materials and the use and their potential of alternative applications in architecture. What was important to us after the festival, to disassemble the materials and being able to return all the materials back to storages and reintroduce them in the construction cycles. In this, sorry,
it's the last slide for this project.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, you go constantly so fast that I cannot concentrate and follow what I actually want to say. Yeah, so to us was very important to integrate all the materials again into the construction cycle. Next, please. Chateau Chapiteau, it's a project in Georgia for the nomadic community, where we try to create several projects, and the question again, minimal budget and minimal time of the construction and pace of the construction, how much architecture could be created with almost within almost urgent conditions. Next. So there's a free spirit community which settled themselves in the mountains of Georgia. Next, which confess freedom and independency, but also a bit of a circus, a bit absurd, a bit of anecdotic lifestyle. So you could see by their outfits, generally what do they try to manifest, and what kind of atmosphere do they try to create. And our collaboration has started with a Facebook post when the founder said, I would like to find an architect. We have land and we need someone with ideas and projects. Next. And we start to work on the master plan. Next. And according to the master plan, one of the series of projects which we have designed, it was a series of the primitive huts. So the whole community, as I said, works on donations and shares and fundraising. And what they try to do, they build by themselves a small community which consists out of a small settlement, which consists out of small elementary buildings. What do we call primitive huts? And I would like to start with the project Tin Can Castle. It's a minimal living module which we try to build out of available materials on the site. In order to build this project, we had to visit the site and try to inspect what is actually at all available there. The funny feature of this site that materials, not all the materials available, but also they're not available all the time. So if you visit the market one day, you will find one selection of the materials, but on the other day, you will find already different materials. And to us was also interesting to learn what we have called contemporary vernacularity. So how this type of construction solutions and architectural solutions, which developed by the locals without participation of the architect, but with a good construction, or let's say technical thinking. Like for example, the stone which lays on the roof, which prevents roof from being taken away by the wind, or reuse of the road tires for the foundation. And here we try to understand which sheets of the metal will be available on the next days in order to be able to specify them for the construction of the pavilion. And we had some tests and again inspect what's available in the market and what we can introduce in the pavilion, operating with a minimal budget of $10,000. $10,000. The design of the pavilion was very simple, and to us was very important to make it very simple to construct, so not only very skilled workers could participate in the construction process. So it's a lightweight construction, a lightweight frame. Here you can see the participation of the community in the construction process. Once again, what was important to us, that everyone could be included in the assembly of the modules. And here how the modules have been landed in the nature. It's interesting that if we speak about small community in the mountains of Georgia, one could imagine that we would speak about very natural material architecture built out of natural materials, probably clay bricks or natural stones. But in fact, it's the other way around. The more we go to the less developed the area is, the more apparently urbanized the materials there. So in the end, the most efficient solution was the corrugated metal, and we have decided to work with this shiny appearance of this corrugated material, which could be installed landed in the middle of the forest. We articulated several details and try again to work with a very simple solutions, like for example square windows, but just by rotating it 45 degrees, we could use typical window and provide a bit of identity and a bit of absurd appearance to this pavilion. That's how it reflects light, and that's how it appeared after the snowfall. And that's how it's that's how the bedroom looked inside. But sometimes when we speak about architecture, probably we even don't need to use any hard materials. And the very first project which we have built for this community was a series of tents. So we try to propose them to work with the same type of the building, but just work with the different proportions and different pattern of the buildings, of the tents, and assembling them on one lawn to create around the fireplace, to create the feeling of the community, but preserving diversity and the identity of each of the tents. That's how they appeared in the forest, and that's how they shined in the night, creating this fairy tale appearance of the camp. And here is the silhouette of the founder of the community. But again, it's very interesting how architecture appears in different seasons. So you could see how the fallen snow change the atmosphere of the place, but also atmosphere of the design of the architecture. How the top part of the pavilion almost disappeared under the snow. Next, please. And when we speak about reusing the materials or reusing the structures, sometimes we have to deal not only with already built structures or abandoned structures, but sometimes you have to work with unbuilt structures. So the other project which we have did for this community, it was transformation of not yet built or not completely built industrial shed into the community center. So when we have been invited, they said, look, we have such a shed, what can we do? And we said, can we choose something? They said, yes, color of the metal, and red or gray. So we said, okay, let it be red. And then looking closer at the shed, we have recognized that actually, look at the interior space of the shed, that it has absolutely basilica appearance. And we decided to foster this comparison by introducing the circular window. And speaking about basilica, it's indeed very interesting because it's a very efficient structure. So this brick structure decorated by marble ornaments. So we have thought, why not to follow the same logic of the basilica? So we have efficient contemporary structure, which we just have to decorate. But we decided to use a bit more contemporary means for their ornamentalization, like painting instead of marble. And we decided to paint the pavilion right across the red corrugated metal. And it's interesting how much actually you can do just with a bucket of paint. So being inspired by Tom Sawyer, we proposed to draw a basilica pattern on the corrugated metal. And that was a very interesting exercise where, again, all the community could take a part. So they tape this pattern and then paint on top, and created such an Renaissance-inspired basilica in the middle of Georgian mountains, which a bit absurdly manifested itself in between of the forest, kind of questioning if it's not yet a settlement, or was it a settlement? Next, please. And as soon as the basilica has opened its doors, it became a very popular place for the community, where different workshops, dinners, dancing classes, and all type of community events would take a place. And the most interesting and probably even more absurd feeling of this Tuscanian basilica was achieved by when the snow fell down, and you can see these bright colors and patterns in this white background. Next. Probably, Leonid, you will
yes.
continue.
Now I will continue. So now we will continue with a very different type of project, which was done in collaboration with our colleagues from Belgium, the Wilderwink architects. It's called Zug Crea Towers. It was a competition, selected competition in Switzerland for the construction of new office buildings. Zug is a city in Switzerland which is known for both being almost like a village-like city in the mountains next to the lake, but at the same time a center of innovation due to low taxes and other political decisions. It became kind of a Swiss Silicon Valley where all the innovative industries has gone, and therefore the competition from the beginning had the idea of using some really innovative ideas, and the site of the new project was located in the new technological cluster of this relatively small Swiss city. It was an urban and architectural competition where the idea was to create two new towers, and from the beginning our question was, is it really necessary after the COVID to create another office tower? Will this office tower be actually required in several years? Will not the requirements and necessities of our societies change so drastically, and maybe the technology will bring us back to home office or to some other technologies which we don't know yet? And our idea was to create a building which is inherently flexible in future. And well, despite its quite modest appearance, we have tried to use the most contemporary technologies in order to make it fully transformable in future, and to use the concept of building for disassembly in its construction. So basically, we have started thinking about different typologies of office buildings. You can see on the left the most typical floor plan of an office building. Next to it, Lloyd's tower typology, when all the circulation is put outside. And our idea was to create a building so flexible that the position of the cores could theoretically be changed in future due to the reconstruction of the floor slabs. And yeah, this was the plan, and this diagonal location of the cores celebrates the idea of this flexibility. But the possibility of such a plan was done due to working with a new type of construction material. So basically, this was a conceptual diagram of the new project, and one of the driving forces for this project was the technology developed in the Swiss Polytechnical University of Zurich by Professor Philipp Bloch, who has created a system of extremely thin shell walls, which are called, the technology is called Rippmann floor slabs, which have which is the concrete technology of floor slabs, which saves up to half of the concrete used, and therefore these concrete slabs, if you calculate the CO2 emissions, are actually more ecological and resource sustainable in terms of resource use than not only the normal concrete floor slabs, but even than wooden construction. So here you can see the diagram of how this Rippman floor slabs are assembled. So it's a system of four cornerstones with one keystone on top. And the idea of changing the core slabs was done due to the possibility of detaching the central keystone, and therefore, but without losing the structural performance of the slab. So basically, you could have the same module with the hole inside and without the hole inside. And here you can see already in the interior the assembled structure, and you can see that the load-bearing structure of the building is a wooden system which is spanned with the Rippman floor slabs. And here you can see that in the interior we outlined this the central piece, which could be theoretically removed in the future. And this, let's say, technological idea went to the base of this project and proposed a building which can be in future reorganized in order to create a building which can accommodate housing, which can accommodate different public function, or can transform its function, transform its amount of users, and transform it for the needs of the future building. Here you can see some basically the detail of the column was also done with the wooden keystones, which allowed the spanning of these Rippman floor slabs. And in the interior, the whole project had repetitive arches, which created its special experience. And also, what was important, and it is visible here on the section, that due to this flexibility of this structural system, in some places we could remove the floor slabs and create double height spaces in order to accommodate diverse public function, both now in this office building, but as well in future, or completely remove some parts next to the roof, for instance, and create these internal gardens. And now, just to change as Artem said, we work from different locations. We try to work with different typologies and with different scales as well. And now, after introducing this quite, let's say, big scale, complex project, I would like to come back to the concept of primitive huts. And basically, we have made recently several buildings which are on the border of rather like art installation and pavilion. And in the base principle of all of them, we have taken the most primitive, let's say, building possible, which is this tripod. This is a diagram of how the teepee, the Native American teepee, starts to get built, and have created a series of minimal architectures which deal with the same architectural principle, but using different, let's say, different conditions and different reasons in different contexts, creates completely different experience. Although in the base, it's almost always the same story. So from the most basic, the shade, the smell, the light, and water, I will now show this project as one, although they are built in different locations with different strategies. So the first one was this very simple structure, which was done for a musical festival, and during the day served just as a tent, as a shadow, where this tripod and together with a metallic tent has created a small hut, but which was in the evening used as a stage for the musicians. The same structure was used in the city of Graz for the experimental, let's say, architectural laboratory called Club Hybrid, where we decided to use the same infrastructure, but it was they have a big lawn next to it, and the lawn constantly sprinkles the water. So the idea was to use this water and not to only put it on the grass, but to first provide the possibility of this water to create a public space during the heat wave, which Europe experiences nowadays, unfortunately, almost every year. So the system of irrigation of the grass lawn around this architectural experimental place called Club Hybrid was used and raised above this tripod construction in order to activate the space and to create, let's say, a sprinkler, let's say, ephemeral pavilion, atmospheric pavilion, which was done mostly with water dust. And in the night, the same infrastructure served to create a light installation. Another project with the same principle was done for Zurich Design Biennale together in collaboration with our friend, an artist, Tansky, who is working with smells, odors, and basically with architecture, and this, which you cannot see, you cannot touch, but you can smell. And the original project location was this parking lot in Lausanne, where we were designing a garden. And there is such a chemical formula of geosmin. Geosmin is a bacteria which appears during the rain. And that's when people feel this rain freshness. You know, after the rain has fallen and you come out to the street, you have this a bit like earthy, stone earthy smell. And actually this is a chemical formula, and it has to do with the geosmin, and geosmin has to do with a certain bacteria which dies and creates this this smell. And of course it would be better to ask Tansky. This is Tansky in her home laboratory, working with different smells and creating different types of geosmin smell. And she has created multiple smells, and we have created a full system how this smell can be distributed without using any external energy. So this was a diagram of, on the bottom you can see the diffuser of the smell, and then on the top a solar panel. And we have created this prototypical, let's say, garden. And the idea was this dystopian garden where people come to this dead, dry parking lot, but they feel the smell of the rain, and basically trying to speculate on the gardens of the future, where maybe such simple things as the access to water will be limited, and people will have to do extreme complex synthetic processes in order just to feel this smell. Unfortunately, this project did not continue, but we used the same logic in the old botanical garden in Zurich, where we have managed to create almost a similar project, which was a complex box which distributed through diffusers the smell of the rain, of the ice, and therefore created, you would come to the summer garden, but it would feel like a fresh water filled environment. Another project with more or less the same principle was this temporary installation, which was done for the fashion show in Geneva, where again some kind of tripod structure was created in order to reflect on the physical and digital presence of the people. So this was done for the High School of Art and Design in Geneva, where every year there is a very famous, it's a school which is famous for its fashion, and every year there is a very massive défilé, which is a fashion show where thousands of people come, and it's known, the student work is known all over the world, and we, together with our students, were asked to create a scenography for this event. And the idea was to use, basically it was again a post-COVID reflection on the presence of human body, both in physical but also in digital reality. So it was a relatively simple metal structure, which was, as you can see here, which was tensilely held by humongous stones primitively attached to it, but at the same time fully covered with multiple screens, which both provided information about the student work, but also gave the possibility of people to present, to speak, and to be in this space digitally and communicate with physical people equally. And in the end of our lecture, we would like to show a couple of projects which have to do with what we call together spaces, the communal spaces. And the first one of this series is a project of a sports center which is called Airbox, which was built for the World Championship of football in Moscow in 2018. It was the idea was that it was a building which was built very quickly and needed to be very efficient infrastructure. And as a concept, we took the idea of a billboard because it was also done for Nike company. Nike was the organizer of the competition, but also for the football championship. And we thought of let's say something that brands itself without actually putting on its facade a brand. And we thought of the minimal infrastructure of billboards. And such billboards inspired us a lot, and we thought of creating a box, quite a simple structure, which has 4 different directions and reacts to its context in different ways. So you can see to the park, it reacted as a big billboard. To the other part of the park, it created a canopy, which was later used by the community of runners in the park. On the other side, there was a football and basketball pitch, and the flap was used as a place to put the score. And the 4th flap was used as what we called 3D workout. So it was a infrastructure through which you could go to the roof, but also do push-ups, pull-ups, and so on. And this is how the building would look in the park. And you can see that also we use this metal structure, which had this infrastructural look, but at the same time tried to be integrated with an existing greenery in the park, and we did not allow any tree on the site to be cut, but they were just integrated in the body of the building, and at the same time, while passing, they were together with the building, creating shadows and this kind of shadow lounges. And the idea of also making the facade as a complex 3D membrane gave us a possibility not only to better cool down the building and create shadows inside, but also to create, let's say, a very intricate shadows in the park, and to basically to create different layers of this building: the transparent layer of the glass, the climatic barrier, then the membrane, and then several layers of the sports rubber around the building, and then even the shadow, which exceeded this delimitation. And what was important for us was also the concept of what we called naked building, similarly to in some engines or in some machines, motorcycles, you can see when the technology is revealed, and we tried to reveal, to close as little as possible, and to reveal everything through the transparency of the facade. So here you can see the technical room with all the electrical networks in it. On the left, you can see the storage of the gym equipment, and in the middle, you can see the corridor, which allowed the sportsmen to run outside to the park from the internal core. And basically, in terms of program, the building was serving as a space for gatherings. So there was a common room and a hall which was used for exercises, but the heart of it was lockers, showers, and the place where the sportsmen could just change in order to go use the park. And this was the interior of one of these axes, which created together with the red floor, created this a bit almost like gladiator moment when the sportsman runs to the basketball or football field, where he's not distracted by anything and just sees the light in the end of the corridor and is getting ready for the action. And the building also served for different public events due to the fact that the idea was also to create a rather flexible and transformable building for the future, knowing that maybe the football and the sports function will serve for quite some time, but maybe later it could be used for different cultural events, media meetings, and so on. And the only non-transparent place in the building was the lockers room lockers room and the bathrooms, which were completely opposed to this main hall, which was blended with an outside, and thanks to the mirror getting integrated into the park. And that's how the building was inaugurated, and you could see how this rather simple infrastructure can activate different sport sites around it. And the last project, the last architectural project for today is Emma Space, is one of our first projects. And it again speaks about the curatorship of space and the new life of an old building. So it was a project to renovate an old abandoned factory of medical equipment, which looked like this at the moment when we get to the space. And the clients asked for some quite generic renovation with the red brick and typical, let's say, European attitude to such post-industrial abandoned clusters of industry. But we decided to treat this space differently and to create a completely different atmosphere there. And also this was a temporary project, so we thought that we should create a strong temporary atmosphere. At the same time, the project had quite a low budget. So here's a strategical, let's say, model, which we did. And we have argued that the buildings themselves would be too complex and too costly to renovate, and therefore we should focus on public spaces between them. So here you can see the physical model of the space where the buildings are completely, let's say, they are not built, they are avoided. And therefore our idea was that the buildings will be left exactly like they are, and they can be the remnants of the past where people can walk inside these old brick buildings. But our goal would be to create a unique experience in between the buildings and create almost like an interior sensation of space outside. So therefore we created several public squares and created a system of facades which wrapped all around these buildings. And here was one of the first conceptual diagrams where again you see that people are gathering on all the interstitial spaces where the buildings do not exist. And we tried again to rethink the attitude to materiality, and we took the insulation foil, which was quite a cheap and available material, and created a detail which allowed us to cover the whole cluster with this material and to create a very unique and very unifying atmosphere, and to really activate both with light and material these different public spaces between the old buildings. Another important feature of this project was the idea of activating the ground floor of this space without walls, without objects, in order to allow people to fully enjoy it. And therefore, we have looked at the infrastructure, again, at the infrastructural hidden infrastructure of the city, and mentioned trolleybus wires, and have created, using this system, several so-called suspended skies, where we have attached loudspeakers, lights, and reflectors. And in this internal courtyards, we have created this kind of ceilings, light ceilings, which were serving for different parties, events, readings, raves, and so on. And this was one of the images when you go from the interior of the building outside. And one other important feature of this space was this disc, the so-called moon or peel, which had a very pragmatical purpose. We tried to separate visually our site from the generic office cluster behind it. But at the same time, obviously, it had this very scenographic and iconic feature. And we used, it became the center of this art cluster and the most iconic element, but it was a very minimal installation, which allowed us to completely detach us from the neighbors and to focus all the attention here. And it looked artificially it looked very artificial, very scenographic, very, let's say, theatrical. And one of the reasons why it had this quality was that we used a special paint which reflected it had these particles which reflect the light, and therefore it looks kind of very synthetically white, almost impossibly white. And maybe the last kind of feature of this temporary installation were the people, the visitors themselves, because they were distributed with these blankets, and therefore they kind of became part of the installation themselves. And here you can see Artyom and his brothers trying to blend in with the space. And as I said, this was the last architectural project we would like to show, but we would like to finish with something which we have done just recently, and that is not architecture.
Should we go to question and answers? I think
maybe. I mean, it's I don't see the messages and the time. So if you want, we can stop here.
Yeah, Gili, should we? Are there any questions or answers?
We can ask the students now for their questions.
I just wanted to end, then I can skip this last project because I have purposefully prepared this slide. I hope it will, just a second. This one. I hope this works.
Almost.
No?
What does that mean?
I don't know.
It's mirrored. It's mirrored.
Okay. I tried
but
my
it's
best.
A good try. Good try.
I mean, it's on Wikipedia, Gili, so.
Thank
Well,
you.
sorry, to be honest, we just have a
you.
bit probably mixed up with the time with this lecture, so there were many discrepancies, but I hope we can now compensate something what's not clear with a question and answer. So would be very happy to receive some comments or questions from your side, and usually that's the most interesting and fruitful part of the lecture.
I think it's really great, and it's really amazing to see the visuals as well. I mean, of course, your projects, but also the beautiful visuals, the photographs, the drawings. So yeah, let's open to the students' questions now.
I wanted to ask if you use only light-weighted material, and if you use recycled materials. Because it looks like you use a lot of plastic and.
That's what we try to simulate, to play like if we would use on the temporary structures and the recycled elements. No, unfortunately, it's absolutely not true. And generally, the market of recycled materials is very small, and it's difficult every time to find a way to integrate recycled products, even though it sometimes has a lot of sense.
It's okay.
Okay. So what I want to say.
Artyom, but did they ask? They were speaking now, and
I think there was a question. Sorry, it's a completely
we're
not clear. There was a question about temporary and light structures, and I was trying to reply, and then I was asked to stop, and I thought it's to translate what I have said, and therefore it was my question: do we speak with the translator? Should I leave breaks for the translation, or should I leave breaks? No, just. Okay, super. Otherwise, I thought. What happened the hour before? Was it anything clear? Sorry, I will try to reply again. So the market of recycled material is rather short, but to us it's important in the practice to find a way to use the most efficient and, let's say, adequate way to respond to the question or to the task which we try to solve in the architecture. So if sometimes, and that's what we not sometimes, but in majority, the task which we ask to solve, the function which we try to provide has a temporary need, and for the temporary need you have to use temporary means, and we try to work with the materials in such a way that they could be afterwards integrated again into the cycle of the construction, could be reused, could be used for another event. And to us it's very important to not only to use the materials which mean to be used for the temporary needs, but also to rethink the materials and try to discover the new way of their application. So, for example, in one of the projects, in the first project, we showed how heavy concrete elements which used in the real construction, in the normal construction, could be also integrated and used as a material for temporary pavilions. And what is interesting, for example, that sometimes these heavy materials could happen to be much more durable and used in more cycles, or go through more cycles of the construction than sometimes some temporary solutions. So even the temporary projects don't mean temporary materials. But of course, in some of the projects which we have showed, we have also limited budget. And over there, to us, was interesting how within this budget you could find a resource, a possibility to provide the required functionality. So temporary use, limited budget, and temporary functionality. And therefore, we use also sometimes material. We apply materials not according to the initial meaning of application. So for example, like insulation foil, which normally you would see in the ductworks, we use as a facade material. Of course, it's a temporary solution, but it also it works for the particular purpose of the project. So to us, it's very important to kind of think outside of this box, outside of this construction industry box. So try to see material beyond assigned functionality. So if it's if this material articulated as an article, sorry, it's a German. How you say, Leonid, article in German, in English?
Article.
Specified. If this material specified as, for example, insulation material, but you can sometimes define another qualities of this material, like, for example, facade material qualities, or as a seating facilities qualities. So whatever project we have, we try not to stick to conventional meaning of the material and conventional solutions, but try to rethink them and propose something what would help us to give a sharper response to the task. Even though we don't use only temporary materials and we don't do only temporary projects, as several projects which we have showed today, they're permanent and they stay and they build out of steel, concrete, and glass. So I hope I replied the question.
Yeah, thank you.